Happy Monday to you. Welcome to this Q&A, this live Q&A session, a live episode of the Be Right Back podcast. If you are watching live, hello to you. If you're watching on replay, say hi to me in the comments. Now, I do always have a question for you. If you are watching live, pop in the comments and tell me where in the world you are and what your dog's name is. Oh, and also do tell me, is your dog watching with you? I normally ask that and people go, yeah, of course. My dog's got separation anxiety. Where else is my dog going to be? 1 second, I'm just going to close my door. So we've had a ton of questions come in, and I thought therefore we'd use this time today to answer all of your questions. So this is your opportunity to ask me anything. Here's how it's going to go. I'm going to take the questions in priority order. So when you have a question, go into the comments and put Q for question and then your question. If you're watching live, then I'll aim to get to your question today. If you're watching on replay, again, put Q and then I know you've got a question for me. Let me do a few hellos. We've got Steffi with her Cooper in New York and Ashley with her Cooper, not in New York, but in Indiana. So we've got all the Coopers in the house today. We have Susie watching from Virginia. Yes, I know, Steffi, all the Coopers watching. Steffi, what's your Cooper? We've got 2 Coopers. What are our 2 Coopers? So one question that came into me that I'm going to start with is a question about crate training. Hi, Louise from Glasgow. Don't forget, if you're watching, pop in the comments and tell me if you're watching with your dog and what your dog's name is. Oh, they're both golden doodles. That's so funny. Cooper and Cooper are both golden doodles. How confusing. All right, so question came into me. My dog does fine in his crate overnight, but when I try and leave my dog during the day in his crate, he absolutely loses it. Has anybody else had this experience where you might have a dog who you feel is crate trained? So in other words, they really like being in their crate, but when you try to leave the house with them crated, they absolutely lose the plot. That is a really common situation, and that's why I wanted to start out by answering the question. And the question was, why is that? Well, we actually can't go inside our dogs' heads and say why they decide one thing is safe and one thing isn't. But that's all that's happening. When your dog is in its crate at night, even with the door closed and it loves its crate, it's decided that's fine and crates are good. But his logic has also decided that he doesn't want to be crated when you go out of the door. It's not every single dog that has separation anxiety, but the vast majority of dogs with separation anxiety hate to be in a crate when you leave. And they will confound you and confuse you because you may have one of those dogs who is fine when you're somewhere else in the house. They can be crated when you're upstairs. They can be crated when you're sleeping at night, but they cannot be crated when you try to leave. So what I would say to you is don't overthink this one. It's great news. If you want your dog to be crated, it's great news that they can be crated overnight, but you're going to find it's a real struggle to get them to love being in their crate if they hate it currently when you leave. You can do separation anxiety with a dog in a crate. It's just a lot more work because you have to get them to love being in the crate first. So if you're watching on replay, don't forget, pop Q in the comments and ask me a question. If you're watching live, same thing. Put Q in the comment and then I know you have a question for me. Meanwhile, I just want to do a few more hellos. Deborah's watching with her coonhound. Hi, Deborah. Emma and Paul are watching with Ruben in Surrey. Rocco is in Scotland. Hi, Andrea in London. Oh, we've got some great questions. And Louise is watching with a Velcro dog. Of course, Marnie the Weimaraner. Most of you pop in and say, yeah, of course I'm watching with my dog, Julie. Of course I am. All right, so let's have a look at your questions then. It really helps me if you put Q in the comment. Annie says, sometimes Ruben is fine with being downstairs alone and is chill, but other times he needs to be upstairs immediately. It's mood dependent. What could that be? Oh, Annie, this is really quite similar to what I was saying about why are they okay in a crate sometimes, but not at other times. We can try and work it out. Sometimes there can be external factors going on. It could be, you want to rule out that there aren't environmental things happening. So usually things that disrupt or give dogs a bit of a wobble are things like noises. It can be changing routine. Maybe you did something different that day that's got him a bit more unsettled. So definitely think through, is there anything at all different about the times when he's okay versus the times when he's not okay? Is it exercise dependent? Is he going to daycare some days? Has he had more interaction or less interaction with you? So do rack your brains for that. But here's the thing. You might rack your brains and come up with nothing. And then all we can say is, we might not be able to work it out. It just makes sense in Ruben's head, and we have to work with that. I'm all for trying to change things up in their environment, in their routine, in what we do, if it makes things easier for everybody. So if there's some change we can make, which means Ruben's okay all of the time, but we can also spend a ton of time trying to find that thing, and it's actually not there. He's just decided some days he's fine, some days he's not, and we just have to go with that. So think about it. Is there any data? And if not, then we have to work with. What's the saying? We play the cards in our hand. So somebody popping up as Facebook user, and Facebook doesn't show me who this is. Do you have any advice for a dog with separation anxiety who also has to be kept apart from the other dog in the house when I leave? He's totally isolated and hates it. So there's a number of things that could be going on here, and I just want to unpack it. I assume these are two dogs who don't get on, or there's potential issues when they're together. So if the isolation from the other dog is causing the problem when you leave, you can practice isolation when you're around. Sorry, you can practice separating them when you're around. It means that you don't always have to do absences. You can practice separation when you're around. If it's just that it doesn't make the alone time worse, then you just proceed on with the training as is. So we're just trying to unpack, does it make the alone time training harder? If so, you can work on separating them without doing alone time training. But if it makes no difference, then you just forge ahead with the training as is. Okay. I actually have two dogs that don't get on, so I'm quite familiar with that, separating them when we leave. But your dogs might not. It might not be that they don't get on. There might be other reasons. Let's just have a look at this one. Dave says, how can I leave Eddie, 2 years old, Cockapoo, without him crying? He sleeps on his own in the kitchen at night, but hates being left if we actually go out. Dave, you're the poster child of what I was saying right at the start of the session. I had a question come into me about this. It was about crate training. It was about a dog who was fine in a crate at night, but not when their family tried to leave during the day. And this is Eddie. I mean, he's not in a crate, but he's fine overnight. He hates it when you go out. All I can say is it's so common. It's very baffling. They've worked out in their head that these two are very different things. The thing is, with the way dogs and animals generally work out what's safe and what's dangerous, they have a very different way of processing it. And so what can happen is that things that look really similar to us, being on your own, if we change one factor, being on your own at night, being on your own when I go out, if we change one factor, clearly for Eddie, we've changed everything. We've made them into two completely different scenarios. So I would take comfort from the fact that he is okay at night. So feel a bit buoyed by that, because that's good news. And then work on the home alone training to teach him that he can also do that when you actually go out as well, Dave. Clingy Cockapoo mum here too, so I know how that goes. Deborah's watching with Nyla, my Doberman. Hello. This is a good question. Should my dog watch me leave? Hello, if you're watching on YouTube. This is a YouTube comment. Should my dog watch me leave or try not to let her see me leave? I love that you've asked this because it's very common to either be given the advice or think that we shouldn't let them see us when we leave. And in fact, it used to be really common advice that you should sneak out on them. So clearly you're thinking, I'm not sure that that's right. And you've nailed it. We should get our dogs to see us leave. When we're doing the training, we're teaching them that being home alone is fine. And we're doing that by gradually increasing the amount of time that they can handle. So in order to get their brains processing that they can handle being alone, they need to know that they're alone. I mean, for tiny, tiny amounts to start with. So that's the first big reason why they need to see you go. The second big reason, just as important for many dogs, is you'll find that they freak out if they discover that you've gone and they didn't see you go. So it might feel okay for a bit because they didn't notice and they seem okay, they seem fine, but they can lose it big time if they suddenly realize that you've gone. And what's going to happen there is they'll get more and more nervous about where you are in the house because they're going to think, oh my goodness, last time I took my eyes off you, you slipped out the house. I'm not letting you do that again. So I love that you asked that question. These questions are so good today. Andrea's watching with her border collie. Hi Tanya with Bob. Oh, back after a break. Oh no, I'm sorry. Well, you know what? A break can sometimes be, hard because there's always a regression. There isn't always a regression after a break. Take that back. It can be hard though, because if we do find that the times aren't there anymore, we think, oh, we've lost it all. But remember, that learning is still there somewhere, Tanya. You just need to dust it off and teach Bob again that he's okay. Steffi asks, and I will add this here, how do you know when or if you should try weaning them off meds? How long after you achieve success with them being alone? I realise they may not be able to be off meds. It is so dog dependent, so vet dependent, so you dependent, Steffi. And there isn't a right or wrong, and there isn't a formula or a time for this. So what I would say is the first thing is when you get to a time where you're even thinking that this might be the right thing to do, go and have a conversation with your vet straight away. Because even if you don't decide that day that you're going to start weaning them off, you might think about a plan for it. And then when you do talk to your vet about how your dog is going to come off those meds, I find lots of vets do it gradually. And if that's the case, you've always got the opportunity of reversing the decision if you find things change. So really it's all over the map on this one, and it's going to come down to your dog, your vet, and you. Louise says, Marnie's fine as long as I'm with her. I have someone to sit her when I have to go out. She gets so distressed. I'm an experienced Weimaraner owner and they do not like being left alone, but Marnie is exceptionally distressed. Any advice on where to start? Yeah, Louise. So you are working with a dog. You've got Marnie, the Velcro dog, who just can't bear not only being alone, but being away from you. So we've got that added complexity. And of course, being alone is like, it's double everything. It's double whammy because not only are they issuing without you, but there's no one around. So think about the concept of getting her to love other people in the world as much as she loves you. So you've got to remember, and you've had lots of dogs before, that Marnie didn't come into this world thinking that you were it. Okay, because I guess you got her at 8 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever age. So she's formed this really strong and pretty unnatural attachment to you, which means she can form other attachments, and attachments that are healthier and less stressful for everybody with other people. And we call it spreading the love. So it's about increasing the number of people in Marnie's life who she has fun with. So if she's got 5 special people in her life now, you need to get 10. If she's got 2, you need to get 5, and so on. So you get her to see that the world is not all about you. And this works really well. It won't mean necessarily that she's ever going to stop seeing you as her number one person, but she just needs to start realizing that other people are amazing too. So you back off a bit from the fun stuff, and they step up, and that can include pet sitters or dog walkers or friends or family. It's all about showing her there's more to the world than you. And that's going to help with home alone training as well. So give that a go. And there's a podcast episode on it, how to handle a dog with hyperattachment. Definitely give that a listen. Yeah, so thank you. It's definitely exercise dependent. Just depends how tired he is or how hyper or playful he is, which is all good, but I assumed an anxiety issue would be consistent. And you're right to raise this, Annie, because for a lot of dogs, it doesn't matter how tired they are. It doesn't matter how much exercise that they've had. For some dogs, it does seem to make them a little bit less, maybe not less anxious, but less motivated to do anything about it. So he might not love that you're upstairs and somewhere else, but he's just got less motivation to tackle it. Either way, what he needs to learn is whether he's just feels like he's missing out on stuff or he's petrified that you've gone upstairs. He needs to learn that he can handle that even when he's bouncy and full of energy. But if you're trying to do home alone training or independence around the house, start doing it when he is more tired and has had more exercise, and build up to the more difficult situation of where he's hyper and bouncy. Okay, next question. Oh, so good. The questions are so good. Michelle says, hi, Michelle from Newcastle. We have 2 cockapoos. Why is our youngest destroying everything in sight when we leave her? She is so destructive. If you think that this is way more than just normal destruction of a young dog, so she sounds like she's quite young. If in particular she does it more frequently and more intensely and does more destruction when you're gone, Michelle, then we've definitely got something that's driven by her home alone anxiety. How do we stop the destruction when you go? We're going to change how she feels about being left, because once she starts to tolerate being left, she'll stop the destruction. Why do they do it? Well, for a lot of dogs, things like destroying or chewing or getting into things can be self-soothing. So it could well be that. It could also be if she's scratching or destroying around doorways or window frames, then that can mean she's trying to escape. But either way, she just doesn't love it when you're gone, and we need to help her be okay with that. The maximum time, I have quite a fixed time on this, and it's quite precise. It is 5 hours for my dog, so I am lucky that I can enlist help beyond the 5 hours. 5 hours is related to some stuff that we do where we leave really early in the morning. We can't get anybody to help earlier than the 5 hours. So for us, 5 hours has given us the freedom that we need. And it differs. Everybody's got different timelines. I don't leave them for 5 hours very often. Don't know why. Now I feel like that's quite a long time. That's my issue. Don't worry about that too much. But that half a day, I think for most dogs with separation anxiety, seems like the sweet spot. Hi, Janice in Northumberland. Hi, Peyton and Jen from Fort Mac. Hi. Aren't we having a beautiful fall? It's so nice. Oh yeah, if they are okay together and you don't have issues, we separate our dogs when we leave, just because 2 of them don't get on, or 1 of them doesn't get on with the other one, I should say. It's that way around. But if your dogs get on, then wouldn't separate them. If it's causing a problem, I definitely wouldn't separate them. Also, the mother of a needy Doberman. Yes, we've got quite a few of those. You're welcome, Dave. Janice says, I've got 6 Dachshunds. Some are okay to be left. Some have primary separation anxiety after half an hour. No pacing if left in a pen. If left loose, he urinates. Oh, bless him. Oh my goodness, that's quite a bundle of Dachshunds, isn't it? Are they all the same? Question from Laura on YouTube. Hi, Laura on YouTube. My 14-week-old Cockapoo, cute, cries when we put him to bed in the kitchen unless we wait to leave until he's asleep. Is this the right thing to do, or should we try to leave him while he's awake? Well, if he's got separation anxiety, and I don't know that he has, maybe he hasn't. If he's got separation anxiety, then you want to do home alone training, which is going to involve him seeing you going. However, if you go out when he's asleep and he's fine for 3 hours, then going out when he's asleep is fine for your little Cavapuchon, Laura. Goretti, what do you mean? Yeah, I want you to expand on this for me, because I think I get it, because I definitely had quite a bit of stress myself leaving my dog as he built up his duration. But do you mean that, or do you mean how do I get ready to start training, to start the separation anxiety training? Pop in the comments and add that. Oh, Deborah says, I love that you give us your time and expert advice, so thank you. Oh, you are so welcome. Listen, I remember I've been where you are, and I don't know how we found out what we needed to find out. When I look back on it now, it's crazy. And that's how I ended up doing this thing, Deborah, because it was just like, well, this is crazy. There's got to be information out there. So you are so welcome. So, Facebook's not showing me your name, but I'm going to pop this up and then you'll recognize your comment, hopefully. What should you say to the dog before you pop out of the door for a few seconds? Or should he be sitting or lying down and not following you to the door? If you're going to leave your dog and it's going to be okay, so you're not leaving them for long enough to get worried or upset, you can say nothing or you can say anything. As long as you don't say, for example, if you have to leave your dog for 2 seconds while training, but then you have to leave them for 2 hours, don't use the same words or cue, because what you want to do is start building up an association with the words. So for example, my book's called Be Right Back. Why is it called Be Right Back? Because lots of my clients kept using the words be right back. So you could say that before each training step. So be right back, and that will start to say to your dog, when I say be right back, I am going to come back and you're going to be okay, because I'm not going to leave you for any longer than you can cope. Also, should he be sitting or lying down and not following you to the door? You are going to find it really hard to not have him follow you to the door. He will want to follow you to the door, because what you're doing is weird. It's odd. It's not normal. And most dogs get really intrigued by us going backwards and forwards to the door, going out of the door and coming back. What you need to look for is absence of anxiety. So they can be standing up, they can be lying down, they can be moving around. But if they're anxious while they do any of those things, then that's what we're looking for. We want absence of anxiety, and they can decide to do what they want to do. Yeah, so Louise says he's a very confident puppy, but does suffer with separation anxiety. So then, Laura, I would say, if you're working on the home alone training, did you grab my puppy book? Because there's very detailed home alone training for puppies in there, puppy separation anxiety. And if you follow the training plans in there, then I would definitely say let him see you go. It sounds like, Laura, that there's some solid foundations there, though, because it sounds like he might be okay as long as he doesn't see you go. So now let's bring it together. Let him see you go and build up his confidence when he sees you go. Oh, Louise, Marnie's a rescue dog and had a horrible start to life. And I have seen this happen an awful lot with dogs who've pinged around and had terrible starts to life. You know, as soon as they find anybody, I'm going to cry now. Oh, thank you for rescuing her and giving her a great life. As soon as they find someone who is, you know, giving them the love and is around for them, then often they can create a really overly strong bond with that individual. But because they've done it once with you, they just need to transfer a bit of that really strong bond to other people as well. Jennifer says, my trainers are coming over to discuss Peyton's training progression. Your separation anxiety training is a bit different than what they'd recommended. Well-intentioned but create issues. Yeah, it can do. Because you were creating beforehand, Jen. I'm hoping they are open to the discussion. Yeah, and there are so many brilliant trainers out there who don't necessarily specialize in separation anxiety, and it does feel like a very particular niche. So I would absolutely believe you that they're probably brilliant trainers at other things. There's no reason why they wouldn't be brilliant at other things, but they don't necessarily have to be deep experts in separation anxiety too. I have a female cockapoo. I'm going to put this up here. Cockapoo, 2.5 years old. She cries, barks and howls after about 10 minutes, doesn't always escalate. I'm confused as to how to help her. Well, the thing about dogs who are sometimes okay, sometimes not okay is, and you're probably finding this, it doesn't help anyone if you don't know when you leave whether she's going to be okay. You want her to be okay every single time you leave. So you've got a good foundation. If she's okay for 10 minutes, you've got a really great start. Now what we need to do is need to build up that 10 minutes and also, and at the same time, do that consistently. I know firsthand that I would have taken, when my dog was getting over separation anxiety, I would have taken a guaranteed 30 minutes that I could do something with over a sketchy 3 hours that might be 3 minutes or 30 minutes or 3 hours, but I had no clue when I left. So that's what you could work on, because once you get that consistency, you're going to feel like you've really got freedom. So let's have a look at this one. Annie Rose. Oh, Annie, I understand it's normal for separation anxiety dog, but I don't know where to go now. He loves her, but he worries about her and feels like he needs to look after her. Well, you had a solid foundation before you gave birth, and congratulations, by the way, on that. So now we're just going to show Ruben that he's fine, even though there's been a change in the household. So in terms of where do you start? You just do what you did before, and you're going to build back up, which is hard, I know, and you feel really deflated, you feel like you've been gut punched. But because he made good progress before, which it sounds like he did, he can do it again. Oh, Steffi, thank you. Steffi says, I appreciate you so much. You're helping so many dogs lead healthier and happy lives. Dogs and you as well, I hope, because I want it for everyone. I want it for the dogs and I want it for you. Let me just see. I am going to do 2 more questions. So, let's do Helen on YouTube. We've got a 17-month-old Whippet. Today I left the house 3 times for around 15 seconds each. The 4th time he cried right away. Do I stick with 3 times? So Helen, what you need to think about is working to a time that he's not going to cry. So rather than repeating the 15 seconds, I would go back to maybe 10 seconds, because you want to guarantee that you can get out of the house. and then add some shorter times as well. So maybe do 5 seconds or 7 seconds, because if he can do 10 seconds, he can do those. Rather than doing 15 seconds over and over, because if 15 seconds is kind of his max and you do that over and over, that is going to stress him out a little bit, potentially quite a bit. Okay, let me do this one from Janice. I'm on multiple Facebook groups for Dachshunds. Yep, I see thousands of people leaving advice for new parents to leave young pups to cry it out in the crate. I thought this was damaging. What should people do with putting in a crate during the day while they go out? I don't do crates, no need. I always talk about, Janice, the difference between opinion and advice. So advice is based on experience and knowledge and learning and professionalism and keeping up to date with research. If somebody is in that camp, then what they say I would call advice. If they're not, then it's opinion. And everybody's got an opinion on dogs. It's like everybody's got an opinion on kids. You can get dogs to be okay being in a crate. You don't need to use them. Some people do, but the way you do that is you gradually increase the time that they're okay. So you get them to be happy in their crate very gradually and incrementally. And lots of dogs don't need to be crated when people go out. In some countries in the world, crates are banned. So crates are something that I think in the last 10, maybe 20 years, in some countries in the world, we've come to accept as the way to manage dogs. But we've all managed dogs before we crated them. We've house-trained puppies without crates. So there's always alternatives. And just keep that thing in mind as well about opinion versus advice. Sounds to me like this is the opinion of people who aren't quite up with what's going on with separation anxiety. Okay, I'm going to do one more question. Let's have a look. How do I get my dog to spend time by herself when I work from home? She always wants to be by me. Awesome sauce. If you have got a copy of my book, either books, the Puppy Separation Anxiety book or Be Right Back Original, there's an explanation of an exercise called Magic Mat, which is basically showing your dog or puppy that being away from you at home is really, really rewarding. So that's something that you could work on. You start very small, take a step away, you make 2 steps and so on, and then you gradually build up. And I did say I'd only do 2 more, but I'm going to do one last one. With them happily sleeping alone, would you recommend them being in the same place when you leave? Yes, I would. If they're fine together, then I would say, yeah, don't worry about it, because it sounds like it's going to help your dog who doesn't like being separated from the other one. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for your questions today. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope you'll join me again this time next week to get your questions answered then. If you're watching on replay, it's not too late to pop in and put a question. If you're watching live and you still want your question answered, pop it in the comments and I'll come back to it later. Meanwhile, have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you all online soon.